Hello and welcome to another 1v1 cast of Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition. Today we have a game between myself and my opponent Jay playing in red. He was playing as Bulgarians and I'd picked Spanish going into this 1v1 matchup on the ranked ladder, and the map is Hideout. So elos of the players, so I was about 1180 rated and my opponent was 1190 I believe, looking at AoE2.net, and I'd seen a few people play as Spanish going on Hideout quite successfully on YouTube, and I thought I would try something else. I was fed up of being tower rushed basically on multiple times, so I wanted to have fast building villagers so that if anything did come up I could react quickly. But my opponent in red went as the Bulgarians, and if I just bring up the Bulgarians on the tech tree, you will see, there we go. So their infantry and cav civilization, the town centers cost 50% per stone, but the thing that worried me the most was militia line upgrades were free, and they can build a Cree post. So a Cree post is like a mini castle. Wonder where it appears. Here it is. So it's a mini castle where they can build their elite unit from, and it costs about half the stone of an ordinary castle. And I've had it in games before where my opponent is fast castled, got loads of stone, put up Cree posts all around my base, and then I'm trapped and I'm done. And going into this, I was really not looking forward to that happening again. So I thought I would try something different, something that I've never done before, especially not in a ranked game. And I won't spoil it for you now, but I hope you'll see. I'll walk you through my thinking as the game progresses. So we'll start to speed this up a little bit. So standard builds, orders from the both of us. You can see a little bit of trouble here from red. He's eating from two herdables at the same time. It's something to try and avoid if you can. The tighter you can get your Dark Age and your Feudal Age builds, the more successful you're going to be later on. So yeah. So at this point I wanted to go for a fast feudal, potentially, and you'll see why I want to, only because I wanted to make sure that if the opportunity came up that I could tower in defense, and I wanted to make sure I was a feudal ready for that. So you will see. And then I'll be honest with you, as soon as I saw that my opponent was Bulgarians in the map, I changed my mind as to playing it defensively with the Spanish build bonus, and actually thought, no, you know what? I don't want this person to get into castle, because as soon as they get into castle, my life is going to be really difficult. So I made the decision to tower rush my opponent and put some pressure on in feudal. I wanted to try and get him off stone as early as possible, so that even if he did hit castle, he wasn't going to start putting Cree posts all over the place and making my life really difficult. And the Spanish do get conquistadors as well, so my plan was, okay, stall him a feudal, go up to castle behind that, keep all of the pressure on his base, so that I don't have to defend too much at home, and boom behind that, and then put a castle down and then raid him with conks before he gets skirmisher upgrade to defend himself. So you can see I've gone for a 22 build order, 22 villager feudal time, and then I thought I'd send 5 villagers to the front. You can get away with 4, sometimes less, if you're going to tower rush your opponent, I believe. I've not done this before, so I was learning on the fly. But my plan was get 5 villagers forward, because I expected to take some losses either from wolves or from my opponent, and then I took a couple of woods because I wasn't going to need loads of wood immediately upon hitting feudal. I thought as soon as this herdable's done as well, whack them on stone so that when I do arrive at my opponent's base, a little bit late to the game, that I was going to be ready to put down as many towers as I wanted. And I'm just going to pause it ever so briefly here. So I did scout his base with my scout, saw that he had a outside gold here, and where his inside stone. So on hideout you will get a small set of tiles of stone and gold inside, and then another set outside your base as well. So that's an unfortunate outside stone for him there. And then again, his stone is very close to the to his perimeter, which is what confirmed in my mind the decision to go forward with this tower rush. So As you can see, my opponent is still in Dark Age. You can see he's on 26 villagers. He's now on his way up. So that's a standard fast castle build. But beyond just a fast castle build, he's actually doing the fast castle build where you should have enough on stone to build a creep post as soon as you hit castle. So I'm glad I went for what I did. So put a tower down. Also, and I want to actually see this from his point of view. So he sees this going up, and he does start to counter tower straight away. And I wanted to put a house wall down and a palisade down to stop his villagers just rushing through. And again, just putting some palisades down to stop his villagers just rushing and battering down the tower. And then if we look at my point of view, and we look at home, you'll see that I've put down a blacksmith because I want to get fletching. I want to make sure that my tower is doing more damage than his as soon as possible. I'm investing I've now got 5 idle vills in here. My opponent's got some idle vills. He's got 3 idle vills in his tower. So I've done some economic damage already, but the villager count is now even, which I find quite interesting. And I'm making sure the entire time queuing villagers behind all of this as well. So I've achieved my first objective, which was keep my opponent off stone. Trying to target the villager, quick repairs, and then in. Until you get ballistics, the tower's pretty useless at hitting moving targets. And the important thing is, once your opponent hops out, target the vills, and then back in. And he's ungarrisoned them again. Got lucky with 1 pick, 2nd pick, and now I got a 2 villager lead. So at this point I'm really happy with this. I can see I got a 300 score lead, and I'm continuing to build villagers behind, so I'm placing down farms. So all my new villagers are set to my straggler trees, and then as soon as I got enough wood and a moment to look away, I quickly queued them onto some farms. And I could see this other tower going up, and I thought about doing something else. I didn't really know what. At this point I was a little bit stuck with what to do, but I thought if I take this tower down first, that tower's not going to be able to range B. I can break down this wall. I wanted to put enough towers up here to make his life difficult, so difficult that he can't get back onto these stones, and then I wanted to deny him this extra stone as well. I didn't want my opponent to sneak out and start taking some other stone without me realising. And for some reason his tower's aggroing my house and not my tower, so he could have had 2 towers shooting at me, but he's only got 1. And I'll take the 2 repair vills out, and now it's 34 villagers to me and only 27 for my opponent, but they have hit castle age. I didn't take them off gold. They got a market up as well, so they could have used the market to balance their economy. And I've also not got loads of villagers. I've got a few villagers queuing, but I'm not close to getting to castle. I don't know this at this point. I still feel like with the score lead and everything, I'm going to have this. I'm going to have this in feudal. I was happy at this point as well. I thought I'll take another cut. I'll put another tower down. And at this point, it's a really good move by Red. He deletes his part of the palisade wall, sneaks in, and I hadn't fully walled it up as well. So now I need to villager fight. And the Spanish villagers, do they have better stats? Not at this stage. There are upgrades for the Spanish villagers that make them better at fighting in the Imperial Age, but we're not there yet. If I do successfully take out the villagers that he sent to try and batter it down, so I'm now on 36 vills to 23. So I've seen my opponent has reached castle. I've nearly got the resources to click up for myself and putting a 2nd tower down because I want to be able to range units that try and melee this tower down as well. And you'll see shortly I'm going to start putting my efforts and attentions over here to make sure I do keep my opponent off all of the stone. Now that he's in castle, I'm worried that he's going to start crate posting me at home, so I'm conscious of that. So I hadn't seen anything sneak out, and I think if we look at the fog of war, probably would have wanted another tower over here just so that I could see on the minimap if my opponent does decide to sneak around and put some of the pressure back on me at home. For now, we're on the gold. I could have done well to put a tower here, denied him off gold as well, because at the moment he's taking that unobstructed. It's got a safe wood line, safe farming eco, and it overall doing very well. And again, I should have ranged this tower, but instead for some reason I'd ranged a gate. But continuing to, so I'm now going to secure the 2 towers. So I wanted a tower close to the stone, and then another tower close to the palisade wall, so I can shoot that down and start raiding with some scouts, or even actually my plan was to start raiding with knights in the castle age. Well played by Red. He's hit the, because he's in castle age, he's using that power spike that you get in terms of the technologies, the buildings and the units available to create a mangonel which can out damage my tower, and I never tell it to attack it, so he does that unopposed. And I see this, but you know what, I'm not too worried. Not too worried at that. I'm thinking, right, let's just let's just secure this position. I'm scared that they might produce rams, or he might come at this with infantry or villagers in an amount that I can't deal with. And this tower's just going to trade some shots with the mangonel, do a little bit of damage before it also goes down. My opponent is back on stone. I think I can cycle through resources. So yeah, so my opponent has 20 stones, so they're looking to get back onto stone as soon as possible so that they can put a cray post or a castle up, I imagine, and start taking into those unique units which are really powerful for the Bulgarians. Always forget what they're called. I believe, find out now. The Bulgarians are, so it's called a Conic, and if you haven't seen the Conic in action, it's a mounted warrior on a horse with a mace, and when you kill the unit, it then comes back in an unmounted form to deal some infantry damage as well, so it is a very powerful, unique unit. I've now hit castle. I'm happy with these walls. Gates, I mean, looking back on it now, I could have just walled there. And then maybe stone wall down the side here as well, rather than doing this elaborate setup. But I wanted to get a stable up on the front so I could produce knights, and also a university because I wanted to get upgrade my watchtowers into guard towers, I believe they are, because I saw the threats from the mangonels and I wanted to be able to outrange and outdamage them, and guard tower is a good response to that. So between the university and the knights, I felt quite confident that I was going to be able to deal with the siege. And again, still got a good score lead. Still got a 4 villager lead, which in my books was a win. I obviously didn't know that at the time, but I looked at that and I felt the damage I've done on the front, despite losing the 2 towers, despite having all of these villagers idle as my gathering resources, is worth it. So at home, I was worried about being pushed from this direction, so I thought I would town centre here just to give me a sense of some semblance of security and to secure that extra gold. This gold is quite vulnerable here on the front as well, if my opponent does come at me with ranged units or siege. And what I do quite like about these walls is that they provided just a little bit of a buffer, and a little bit of buffer both in space but also in time that it takes for my opponent to come forward and attack the towers themselves. So you can see, got some knights researching, getting the armour on the knights as well. My opponent's getting their eco upgrades, and I've got a few of them queued, so I know that as soon as they're in range, which they are now, I'm going to be able to snipe those knights. And I'm guessing that even if they have spearmen, but I haven't seen any infantry, I haven't seen any other military, that I'm not going to have a problem with. And there we go. Palisade Great Gate is down. And I feel it's important at this point just to go in there and snipe the mangonels. Make sure that my opponent can't put any more pressure on this forward. Trying to wall this up, quite worried now that I'm just going to stream in, and to be honest, if I go in here with some knights, there's not much they can do. They've got a monastery, sending a few villagers round. This is what I was worried about, but they've changed their mind. The town, it's a weird place, the town centre, if you ask me. It's not next to any minerals, it's not really up against a good wood line, it's not too well protected by the terrain. Lose a knight there, lose the high HP knight as well, so it was well microed by him to pick the correct knight. Nope, don't get the touch. At this point I think, I got 2 knights. Wander around. And yes, a castle drops. I don't want my opponent to leave out of this area, and I want to be able to walk in and out whenever I want. So I put down the castle, getting my eco upgrades in as well, so wheelbarrow and heavy plough. Knight's going to do some damage, but there's enough villagers there, and there's not quite enough upgrades on them, so that they will win. And just paused it there for a moment, because I'm struggling to keep up with what's going on in the game, even though not a lot is happening, because my opponent was trying to convert my knight, and it was my only knight remaining, and I didn't want them to take that knight. I didn't want them to have any opportunity to get a military unit off me and to them as well, to potentially take out some of my own siege in the future, or even to fight back with me. I'm really confident at the moment that I was like, you know what, I can afford to lose this knight, so I chose to delete it instead of giving it to them. So now that I've got a castle, I can start building conquistadors who are mounted gunpowder units. A little bit inaccurate, but very powerful, especially at raiding and in the castle age. Until your opponent gets elite skirmishers and gets ballistics, there's not really an answer to them. If you do come up against them, getting elite skirmishers, getting the ballistics upgrade in is the best way to counter them. Even though you are a little bit slow, you can patrol them around your vulnerable eco. And just looking at the ecos as well, something I want to point out is look at all this inefficient movement by my opponent on the woodline, all that time walking, whereas I did my best to keep refreshing my number camps, keeping my mining camps in the right places, trying to build mills around my farms as my eco expands. And it's just those things that the better you can micromanage that kind of stuff in the background, the better your overall game is going to be. So I've only got 2 TCs working behind, and you just let them gather points to where you want them to be, and I have a button on my mouse that just selects all TCs, and I just queue the villagers. And you can see now 3 TCs up, so I put another TC on the wood mine because I need the wood, so that I can put the farms up so I can get the food, to get the conquistadors, and I'm feeling really good about the game now. I didn't expect it to go this well. I expected the tower rush to fail, and I wish I'd seen this during the game. If we look at my fog of war, ooh, I did see the farms with the scout, but I did nothing about it. Bit of a shame. At this point, I'm just trying to build the numbers up. Fast forward a bit to so I can start raiding. Snipe the monk first because I didn't want to turn this into a 2v2 with a monk then healing the units. And what I did here as well is I put my conquistadors on stand ground. And what stand ground does is that they will continue to attack any enemy targets within range, but they won't move from where they're stood. And that's important to do when you're raiding, because you don't want your ranged units to then suddenly chase a unit and wander off into town centre fire, which they are vulnerable to. So I'm moving them closer to the villagers in order to try and block them in. And he does get 2 conversions here as well, so he's done really well there. We'll micro that one down and we'll stay here. Keep my opponent off the wood line, not unknown to me. We're on another wood line here. And if we look at the economy, so 68 villagers to 59, and then 6 military to 7. But my opponent also has more idle villagers, a less efficient economy, and his town centre gather point must still be set to that wood line, because I keep picking off those villagers. I still got conquistadors queuing at the castle whenever I can afford them as well. And I'm on my way to the Imperial Age. So I want to get some trebuchets down, and I want to win this game. I want to just tread down this town centre, and I think if I can do that, then the game's up. I feel like I can get, on my way to win, I can get enough conquistadors up so that I can protect my trebs from anything that they throw at me, together with the castle fire that will protect me from any skirmishes that my opponent might build. But my opponent has built 1 barracks, hasn't produced anything out of it, has produced a siege workshop, had some mangonels at the beginning to deal with some of the castle pressure, but hasn't done anything since, hasn't built a range, even though they've seen me use conquistadors already. And if we look again, if we cycle through, look at the resources of my opponent, so nearly got the food and the gold to go up to the Imperial Age, it's just got the stone to put down a castle, so they're trying to rush to the Imperial Age now as well, and their plan will be to get to the Imperial Age, tread down this castle, push me off the front, and then counter-raid me at home. But look at this vulnerable eco. I wanted to put this castle on the hill, but I thought it might be a bit greedy. If I just produced some conquistadors there and started roaming around, taking them off their farm eco here as well, probably could have ended this game before they hit him. And I've nearly used all of the stone. I have just finished using all of the stone, so mine turns to, well, what do I do with all these idle villagers now? Let's get some production buildings down. Let's get a few more stables, because I'm worried that if my opponent does go into skirms, conquistadors will be vulnerable. So get some now cavaliers into the fight, and they'll be able to deal with any skirms or ranged retaliation. And as I go in, the castle shoots at me, I see the castle, and that's giving me the first target for my trebuchets, and I've got 2 of them queued already. And I am researching other castle techs in this castle, so I don't need to produce military out of it. And I'm feeling good. Getting my blacksmith upgrades in as well. My opponent is teching into stable upgrades because they want to upgrade the Connex. That's what they want to go for. So there is still a threat that if they had got to Imperial Age first and tread down this castle, they could have got all of the crane posts up, they could have built a mass amount of Connex, and they could have done a lot of harm to my eco. But I felt like I was fairly well prepared. My plan was, you know, as soon as I had the stone to town centre here, and then to build a castle and defend that flank as well. But I start treading down my opponent now. The Cavalier, is that the Cavalier or Paladin upgrade? Cavalier upgrade coming in. Trebuchets are doing damage to the castle. That castle is a lifeline for my opponent. It's going to be their only way to make trebuchets, so they need to keep that up. And he's still 10% of the way from being Imperial Age. It's not a good time. Could have been greedy and sent my conquistadors in, but I didn't want to throw this game. I was really pleased with how well I played it, given that I hadn't practiced the strategy before. My opponent gets to the Imperial Age. You can see they're queuing a trebuchet straight away. They got the Elite Skirmisher upgrade coming in now, which I feel is quite late, far too late. Trebuchet never comes in. Start trapping down the castles. Now's the time that I feel confident that, yeah, let's send the conks in, let's start shooting some of the villagers, start making sure that they know that this is GG. Plenty, monks, it's not a bad shout, but I've now got the conks in such numbers that I can kill them so easily. And he's hiding, and that's a lot of gold. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. How many is that? I'm going to pause the game. Quickly move over. That's 900 gold worth of monks. How much quicker could my opponent have been to the Imperial Age if they hadn't invested so much money in monks? A few monks, sure, that's good. So many. Saw my opponent building these ranges. Thought I'd take out the production bills. Look, all the conks are going down now. There's 2 conversions, 3 conversions, so pretty, like, a lot of conversions, but like 900 gold to convert 3 conks. That's not that's not a good trade. And the GG comes in. Quickly return to the map. At this point, I just caught on a little bit too late about what was going on over here. Started producing conks on this side as well to start raiding my opponent. But yeah, I thought this was a really interesting game. Been really struggling with some of the Civ matchups in 1v1 games recently. So I thought I'd try something new. And thankfully it paid off. Guys, I hope you've... Oh, before we end things, let's have a quick look at the stats. I mean, it's not surprising along the bottom given what we've just seen, but that is brutal. 54 units killed, 9 lost, that includes conversions. So only 3 killed, plus the 6 conversions. Took out castles and some of my surrounding buildings, not castles, towers. Never got an army. I mean, that largest army was 9 monks, I think, and 2 of something else that I didn't even see on the field. Economy-wise, I was ahead the entire way. Technology-wise, quicker to feudal age and quicker to the imperial age. My opponent got to castle age, did well with the mangonels, but didn't clear up the front completely and didn't boom behind it quick enough as well to recover or to counteract the effects that my pressure had on his economy during that time. Society got to the relic quicker, still got a villager high of 81, which is quite impressive given what was going on. And then yeah, you can see like that trend was going to change very quickly. One thing that I did want to say, I've now forgotten, is that if you're going to be greedy and you're going to go for a fast castle, you need to be scouting your opponent really well. I don't think, let's have a quick look. Fog of War. Oh, we can't see it now. But I don't recall seeing my opponent scout my base. Didn't scout my villagers coming in until it was too late, and then didn't win the Tower War immediately. And Hideout gives you this false sense of security that because you're surrounded by walls, that you can be greedy, you can go to fast castle and not be punished for it. And I do have another game on Hideout, Hun War, where again I put feudal pressure on and my opponent goes for a fast castle. And that is more of a demonstration of how to be greedy and be successful. If you're going to do that, you need to make sure that you defend really well at home. We have the ability to react and defend really well at home. If not, you risk being caught out, like my opponent did here. But guys, that's it. I hope you've enjoyed this 1v1 video. If you do have any 1v1 replays that you would like to send in, comment below and I'll let you know how to send those in, and I'll be happy to have a look, and you know, the ones that are interesting or the ones that I feel that we can all learn something from, I'll be happy to cast. I do these as much for myself in order to learn. It's a little bit more fun to review my replays or replays of others with you guys than just doing it at home and thinking, oh, this is time that I could spend playing rather than watching replays. But nothing has changed my game more than watching my own replays and trying to be as critical about myself and about my opponents as well. And that's both, you know, when I say critical, I do mean complimenting where it is warranted, but also, you know, picking up on what mistakes did I make, what could I do better, you know, how can I make my feudals tighter, what needs to be practiced, what needs to be refined, what decisions did I make well, what wrong decisions did I make, what decisions could I have made sooner, what did I see in the replay that I didn't see in the game. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed coming on this journey with me. So until next time, that'll be all. Take care, see you next time.